Okay, so I did about 5 codes on there, and it's not looking too bad. So while that's drying up, I'm going to go ahead and work on doing this. Now, I told you I was adding these lights. What I'm going to do is, because this board will not be shown, because I'm going to use this other board to charge the battery. So this board will be just stored inside. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take off these 2 lights that are on here. Because you got one that'll flash for the Bluetooth connectivity, and then the red one that'll flash for when it, or not flash, but it'll come on when it's charging. What I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the one that'll light up blue for the Bluetooth, but I'm going to put on white ones, and it'll have dual white ones that'll be flashing on the front of the box for the Bluetooth connectivity. I'm going to remove the red one, and then I got some yellow ones here that I'll put in that'll be for the charging to indicate that it's charging. So I got to remove this one first. Okay, there goes that one. So I need to clean up. Yeah, the solder don't look too bad. So I'm going to go ahead and connect this up. Which actually I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I get this done right. So I'm going to have to put the battery back on here for a moment. Give me a second, I'm just trying to find where the battery hookup is on this board. Ah, there it is. I'm going to hook up the battery temporarily so I know that I'm getting the polarity correct when I hook up the bulbs to that piece. And like I said, I'm going to end up using that smaller board for the charger on this, so I don't have to try to figure out how to mount this big board onto the back. That ain't the greatest connection, but as long as I know I can get this turned on so I can figure out what I'm doing. Give me a second here. Alright, so now I know which wire goes where. I gotta get a little bit of solder on these real quick so I can get them on the board. Okay. Let me get this other one here too. Maybe. There we go. Now we got that. We can work on getting it actually soldered to the board here. Which I'm probably going to end up cutting these down a little bit. They don't need to be that long. Okay, just a little bit more here. Cut this one down a little bit. Okay. Here's that side. There's that side. Now when I turn this on, these lights right here should start flashing for the Bluetooth. And you see they're flashing. That's as indicating that either the Bluetooth's paired or ready to be paired. So now that that one's done, I can move on and I'll remove this red one, which will be where the orange lights will end up going. So I'm not boring you on that one because it's going to be the same concept. I just removed that off. I got to check the polarity to make sure I get it hooked up right for those, and then it'll be the same thing. So you're not being bored with seeing the same thing again. I'm going to go ahead and off camera get the other light wired up here. So give me just a few minutes and I'll be right back with you guys. Okay, so I went ahead and got the other side wired back in, which, like I said, when you turn it on, the white lights will flash. That's the Bluetooth indicator and also showing that there's power. But now, when you plug in the charger, you'll see that the orange lights now light up. This is indicating that it's being charged. So the next step is I got to get this little board wired up in here in the place of the battery, because like I said, this is going to be the charger for this battery now. Instead of using this board, I'm going to use this one. So it's just as simple as I got to run some wire from the board, from board to board pretty much. I'm going to make sure I leave myself plenty of wire to work with in there. Now with this wire that I'm using, there's a solid black wire and then there's a black wire with a white stripe. So I'm going to use the solid black wire obviously as my ground, and then I'll use the solid, or the black wire with the white stripe as my positive. And this board's labeled as to what goes where. Like the inside tabs on here are for the battery, the outside tabs are for whatever you're trying to power. So move that one to the side. So I gotta get my solder so I can solder that wire down. We'll get this wire soldered down. Which is as simple as that. And yes, I'll clip off the extra of the wire. I just want to get them in place. And now that was the negative side, which was the solid black wire. Now I'm going to use this black and stripe wire for the positive side. This wire will be the one going back out to the other board. Which also, I'm going to have to interrupt this wire to put my switch here, because I'm not even using the switch on that board either. The board's going to be there for the Bluetooth part, but I'm not using it for anything else other than the Bluetooth part. So let's get this one soldered down. Once I figure out where I'm going to put my switch and how I'm going to do these boards, that's when I'll run the wire for the switch and get it soldered up, and I'll enter between this. I'll have to intervene this wire going from this board to the main board. That way it turns the power off, and this board will still have power through the plug to be able to charge it. So let's go ahead and trim this off now. That extra wire that there is. Okay, got that done. And now I gotta pull the battery back off this board again because it's going to go on this one. So we gotta desolder it off here. I'm going to redo my ends on this one, so I got fresh ends to work with here. I almost made a mistake just now. I almost cut both these wires at the same time on the battery. That could have been bad. The only thing I'm doing is just using the solder to help loosen up this shield on the wire so it's easier to get off. And I'll do it on both sides here. Okay. Alright, so now with this one, the battery will go here. You got, oh, I'm just bumping the crap out of you guys now, ain't I? So, you got the battery positive input and battery negative input. So we'll do one at a time here. So there's the battery positive input. We'll get that in there and we'll get it soldered down. Usually don't take a whole lot of solder to put these on here, as you see. I just put the solder on there and let the board heat up just a little bit, enough to make that solder actually stick to the board. And you want to make sure that these ain't touching your outside rung or tabs, because then, well, your board's pointless at that point. And you have to start all over. As you see, just a little bit of solder and right to the board. That's perfect. Now we got our charging board ready to go. Let's get this other end going and I'll get it soldered to the board that will be for the Bluetooth part. Okay. I gotta get these ready to go. Alright, and I want to trim that down a little bit because they definitely do not need to be that long. But I'm not going to actually hook that up just yet. Like I said, I got to wait until I get it in the box because I got to interrupt this wire to turn that board off. Actually, you know what? I will go ahead and hook it up to the board. And then we'll go from there. I gotta find where it hooks up again. Give me a second. Right there. Okay, now we have battery positive, which is the black with the white stripe. Actually, I need to trim these down because they're way too long. Now, there we go. Let me get this up here where you guys can actually see what I'm doing here. Okay. Battery positive, which is the black with the white stripe. We'll go to battery positive here. And then we'll have the battery negative, which is the solid black wire, go to the battery negative. And now, since there's no on and off switch in between here, if I turn on the original switch, the board should have came on. Which it did not. I think I see the problem right there. Okay, let's try that again. Well, if the dang wire would stay connected, that would help too. What I found is there was actually a piece of solder that was jumping over to the other battery, which would not be good. That ended up creating a dead short, which you definitely don't want. There we go. Now I got it fixed, and now we're up and running. It's much better. So, in theory, now, instead of having to figure out how to mount this big old board, you know, to where I could plug in my USB, micro USB plug to charge it, now I only have to do it with this little board. And then I could just stow this anywhere inside that box. And then this one will charge. Which, if you plug in the charger, which now it's charging. But I just realized something. I defeated my purpose with these orange lights. So I might get fancy and just tie the orange lights in with the white lights, since having the charging part ain't gonna matter on that. So anywho, I'm gonna go check on the box, see how the paint's drying on it, and then like I said, I'm gonna end up putting these orange lights in with the white lights. That way I have orange and white on the front that'll blink. So I'll get back to you guys in a moment.